Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Get Into It with Gila. I'm Gila Glassberg, registered dietitian and certified intuitive eating counselor. And today I have Kellie Gross. Hi, Kellie.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for joining us. This is so much fun. Kellie is my really good friend from back in the day in seminary, and we're still good friends. But tell the listeners, Kellie, where do you live and what do you do?
Hi, everyone. I'm Kellie Gross. Some people know me as Elisheva. I am now living in West Hempstead, originally from San Diego, California. And I have moved around a lot. I came to New York after seminary where I met Gila. And before that, like I said, I was in California and I grew up going to public school and then made my journey to going to the all-girls Jewish school there when I was a senior. And kind of just made my way to being a Baal Tshuva and learning a lot and getting to meet Gila and Tomer Devora, which we love. I love.
Tomer Devora. Tomer Devora.
And now I'm here in West Hempstead and I am a nurse.
Okay, wow, awesome. I just wanted to say, sorry to throw you off, but we have been discussing doing this podcast for a really long time. And it happens to be you're my really good friend, but you also have a really interesting life. And there's so many different aspects that we could pull apart, and I'm sure people could glean from also. But let's just start from your Baal Tshuva story. So you didn't grow up you're from San Diego. So how did you become from?
So when I think I was a sophomore in high school, there was a Jewish club in my school, in my public school, and they gave out free pizza. So people were like, oh, let's go. We'll bring you. You're the Jewish person. We'll get free pizza. I wasn't really interested in going. And I ended up going and meeting this most amazing couple. A lot of people will know who it is, Jackie Batone and her husband, Eli Nantan. And I ended up becoming super close with them.
Wait, one second. Can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
You were the only Jew in your group of friends?
Maybe one or two others, but
mostly not Jews.
Yeah.
Non-Jews.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
So I became close with the Batones, and they told me about Camp Nagila, Jeff's camp, upstate New York, and it sounded awesome. I sent in my registration, and then I found out it was all girls Jewish camp. I said, heck no, that's weird. I am not going to an all girls camp. And then a couple weeks later, right before camp would have started, a cool sounding girl called me. Now I know who she is, and she's from the 5 towns, and she was telling me all about camp and how much fun it was going to be. And she really pulled me in and was like, hey, this could be a really awesome experience. So I ended up going and falling in love with it.
And what did you bring that was Jewish?
What
Jewish article did you bring to camp? Because it was your only Jewish article.
My tallis.
Yes.
My tallis. Yes. I totally forgot. That's so funny, but that's what but my in-laws all still make fun of me for having my pink tallis, which I love. Your and I still have it.
Good.
I'm like, wait, what did I bring? You remember more than me.
I totally remember that. That was so funny.
And I just really loved it. And I really asked questions and I really learned a lot. And I became close to a lot of the staff members. And I went back home that year, still in public school, but questioning a lot of what was going on. Not just really Lashon Hara was the not speaking about other people, negatively about other people was a huge thing for me. And now as I'm very into being a religious frum person, I know it's also very much in this community, unfortunately. But it was something that really struck me, was that there's this whole concept of not speaking Lashon Hara. Wow. And then I went back to camp that next summer, and then for my senior year, I switched to the girls' school, which had 35 girls in the whole school.
Wait, one second. How did you do that? You left all your friends and your whole basically community. How did you have the strength to do that?
I honestly don't know. I think only Hashem, and I'm not that type of person. I am a very real person. It was really hard, and looking back at it, I don't know if I would give that advice to someone else to do that. Mm-hmm. In such a small school where there was a very few people to become friends with. So I'm so thankful I became close to a few families, girls in my class, and then their families. Um, just kidding, not my class, because my class wasn't, um, I just didn't, I didn't click with a lot of my classmates. They didn't understand where I was coming from. So I actually became friends with a lot of the younger girls, and I just survived. And then I went to Tomer Devorah, which was life changing. And
It's really crazy, by the way, that you went from like public school to 1 year of yeshiva to a mainstream seminary. Don't you think?
it was crazy, but I wouldn't change. Like, I
You
think also,
integrated right in. You integrated right in.
yeah, there's very few times like my in-laws and Chaim will make fun, Chaim's my husband, that like they'll say like, okay, that was like one of your moments. Like, I don't have a lot of these like moments that you could like make fun or pick on me, like that I'm about Shuva. But like there's certain times like when like it's very obvious. But yeah,
No,
I
no,
tried.
no. It's not obvious. You
Thank
totally blend in.
you.
You're welcome.
So yeah.
Wait. What your husband and your in-law say that it's like obvious when? Because you went to seminary?
Oh no, very few things are obvious, but like when I do make a comment, or there's one story where I always say this story, it's really funny. I was on the phone with a friend from seminary, and it was before Rosh Hashanah. And Chaim said he was fasting. And so this friend was like, oh, because you fast for the firstborn son. So I go out, I'm like, oh, Chaim, you're fasting because of the firstborn son. And he's like, that's Pesach, like not Rosh Hashanah. And I was like so mad because he was able to make fun, like, oh, you don't know because
Right.
you're about Shtuva.
Right.
Like,
I don't know either.
not from
So.
a mean thing, not from a,
Right.
like, he's
Right.
like joking, you know him, he's
Right.
very funny. But
Yeah.
like this friend who knows so much more than me, who like, I was like, obviously if she's saying it, then like, it's right. But like, it was totally wrong. But that's just like,
So why was he fasting?
I don't even remember, to be honest.
So
This was a
listen,
really long time ago.
I
This
don't
was
either
like,
know why he was fasting. So, and you know more than me, and I grew up totally from, you know that. Like whenever we would go to shul, I'd be like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know. I never paid attention in shul. You just integrated right in.
I did.
Yeah. So you became from, right. That's crazy. By the way, it's crazy. Even though I knew the story, it's like that's really not normal. It's like insane. Okay, fine. So let's fast forward. So you got married. You're living in Stemstead, you're a nurse. So first of all, could you just talk us through a little bit why you decided to be a nurse?
Sure.
And you were like really treating people like on the front lines with Corona also.
Yeah. I'll get to that.
Yeah.
So I became a nurse. Originally I wanted to become a nurse. I like caring for people. I thought it would be a good field for me to go into. Felt like about social work, teaching. I'm not good at explaining things so well, so that's why I kind of veered off of the teaching path. And then I was in Turo, and I had a teacher that had a heavy accent biology teacher, and I really couldn't understand. I wasn't following. She pretty much pulled me aside and was like, you have to take a W or you're going to fail, like withdrawal or you're going to end up failing. So I withdrew, and I was like, forget about it. I'm not becoming a nurse. This is ridiculous. It's way too hard. I can't do it. And like, then I went to like the social work path, like doing the psychology route. And I liked it, but like really what I wanted to do if I was doing social work was work in like the low income schools and kind of help with those children that are coming from low income homes and communities. And I felt like that was going to be too hard to get a job. And I was like, let me just go for nursing. So I went to community college to do anatomy and physiology and bio and chem. And at that point I was dating Chaim, and he like really encouraged me and was like really helpful in whatever I needed help with, and kind of just encouraged me to do it. Like he gave me the time to study. He never like pressured me, made me feel bad like when I had to study or overdoing things with the family. And then I went to Adelphi. I did it through Rebbetzin Volka's program, the new seminary, which was amazing to have a group of frum girls like just there to support you and help you and kind of give you. It was like no competition. Everyone just wanted what's best for you. And
that's so nice. That's really nice.
Yeah, it is really nice. And I'm really thankful I got a job really quickly in LIJ and discovered that it wasn't really ideal for myself. And unfortunately for like a lot of people, I was told it's like a great profession for a frum person, and It's a great profession from women who doesn't need a lot of sleep
Mm-hmm.
and has a lot of help and doesn't feel mom guilt. So those are all things that are hard for me, were hard for me, especially when I was in the hospital. And I was in the hospital from August of 2017, I think, to this September. Um,
Oh,
and
wow. I didn't know that. It's like, is that
like
like
3 years,
3 years?
three
Three
and a
years.
half, something like that. And um, then it was COVID, and it was like hell. It was like really working through hell. Like you can't, I can't really fully explain like what I saw and what we had to do and what we put up with. And
You were originally on the cardiac floor, right?
right. And then our floor, we all like got floated to the units that were like switched over to COVID, but then our unit switched over. And then we were the last unit at LIJ actually to have a full COVID unit.
Wow.
So we were there for quite some time. I was actually the first nurse from my unit to be to go to another floor.
Were you like scared? Like, were you like, you didn't have a choice, right? Like you weren't
right.
allowed.
You didn't have a choice. I don't think I was scared. It was more like I was that first day. I know exactly what pictures my managers came to the floor to check on me, and I made them take a picture of me in my full getup, and like I was like laughing, like model posing, like just as a joke because that's what we had to do because I was sweating, like I was just dripping. It was really very difficult, and I was ready to get out, and thank God I got a job and still through Northwell, but with oncology outpatient. And I am so much happier. Of course, every place has their pros and cons, but I'm much more happy with this setup that we have. My lifestyle at home is much better, much healthier. And yeah.
Do you see yourself staying on as a nurse, like for the long term, or like, do you have other like dreams, visions, like?
So honestly, I don't envision myself being a nurse long term forever. I would ideally, like, I'm going to keep up my degree, like my certification, and keep it as long as I need to have health, provide for my family, have health insurance, and fulfill that need that I have for myself. But I do want to do something. I have like this feeling like so deep inside of me that I need to do something else. I don't know what it is. I'm really always davening and praying to that I like should have clarity. I do have this concept that I have spoken about with Chaim and a few other people for like years. And that's like about helping people that once they become from like through NCSY or JEP or any other program, I find that there's so many things that people need help with after they're already from, being at the cost of a Jewish college or just advice for like, hey, you don't need to go to Turo. You could rent an apartment with 4 other girls and go to Queens College, and that's great.
Right.
Like, I wish I knew that so that I didn't have to pay off a lot of money in loans for a Jewish college.
Right.
And there's just a lot of other things that come up that you don't realize, like how expensive shells are to wear under your clothing. And when they get ruined from your friend's basement flooding and they accidentally throw them all away, and then you're stuck without any white shells. And like people don't realize like that was a huge tights. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah. So
or just sneeze clothes in general.
Sneeze clothes in general.
Kosher food.
Also just like social work, like having people set to help like take these people like for therapy. A lot of people in general, everyone should have like go to therapy, but especially people that are changing their whole lives. Some families might not understand what you're going through, and so you might be disconnected from your family. Dating tips. I'm very lucky that I integrated so easily and I had people to help guide me, but not everyone does. Dating coaching, maybe you're a little awkward, maybe you're this, maybe you're that. Like these all things, I don't know, cost money and are difficult.
Maybe that would be like a dating coach or like a Baal Teshuva coach. Right. You totally could do that, by the way, like as a separate thing. Like I really do feel like I feel like when you have like you need to get him. Is he good? You can get him. Good.
hungry. Okay, that's my son. He needed a snack.
Akiva?
Yeah.
Akiva. Go get a snack.
You have my earphones, so he can't hear you.
Oh, okay, fine.
I didn't know if there was anything, keep it private.
Yeah, got it. I feel like so many people say that, like we've spoken about this privately also, but like not to make this about me, but like with my business also is like I worked so hard to get my degree, and it's like you start working and you're like, what? Like
Right.
what do you do? And like you walk in like your first day and like you hate it, or like you wait the 6 months, you're like, oh shoot, I still hate it. Like, and like you went, nursing is a hard degree. Like you kind of like changed paths a few times, and that's like really frustrating. I feel like that inner calling is like, it's like a real thing, people like you went through that. So that means other people, I'm sure people who have went through the same thing, like integrating.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so we were talking about being like a coach, so
right.
or a mentor. So that what I'm saying is that like you could have like that inner knowing or that inner calling or like that gut feeling. I guess we could call it like intuition, like that.
Right.
That you want to do more, that something's missing, or that like my business coach, like to be gross, she always says like whenever I'm like anxious or like with my public speaking or like I don't know if I could do it, she's like, you don't have a choice. Like the world needs you. Like you have to kind of like reframe it. Like, what about all those people that need your help? I'm like, oh, right. like it's not about you, it's about them, basically.
Everyone else. Right.
Yeah.
Everyone that you could have the potential of helping.
Yeah.
She's right. I'm saying, but that's really hard. And it's also hard, like and I always say like, you're my most hardworking friend. Like you've built yourself up and it's unbelievable. And like, I know a lot of what I would have to do is fundraising. And I hate talking about money. I hate financial stuff. I don't like dealing with it. And that would like be really hard. Like I would have to ask people for money. That would be part of it.
Mm-hmm. You're saying if you were a coach, then you would have to ask people. Mm-hmm.
Right. Like there's actually a few different people that do help with certain aspects that like I already had in mind. Like, okay, I know I could ask this person, get them involved. But right now we need the health insurance and
right.
And unfortunately, like this is just where my life is right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know where we'll be in a year. I hope Mashiach comes. I think that would be really nice. But I do hope one day to figure out what would really fulfill me and go with it, be able to like really fully like dive into it.
Do you mind if I offer one piece of advice right here?
No, of course.
I wonder if like I think that's people's biggest fear is that they think like I can't lose my steady income or my health insurance, but like if it's like a meaningful piece, right? Like it's like what's it called? Like something that you want fulfillment, right? Because all of us like we really crave fulfillment even more than like the money or the stability, in my opinion. Like, is it something that you could do like once a month as a volunteer thing, and then maybe people would start like knowing you as that person, and then like even Sippy said, I'm quoting Sippy a lot, but she said like everything in the world like is like an energy exchange. So like when you start doing that enough, people end up wanting to pay you, or like, you know what I mean? Like in the beginning, it might be a volunteer thing and that would still feel really good. But like you could end up, like being that go-to person.
Right. I actually never thought about that. And that's a really good idea. And also with social media, there's so much like free advertisement that I could do to kind of start it.
Right.
I didn't ever think about that. Thank you.
Yeah. And also like,
so smart.
Also just in terms of social media, I was thinking like, I probably mentioned this on my podcast before, but like when Corona happened, like I had a goal to like post every day, do a blog post a week and do a podcast a week. And everybody was like, how do you do it? How do you do it? I'm like, actually, like, it wasn't hard for me because I had so much I wanted to share. But like, cause my personal life is very much attached to my brand and everything. But like recently, like with things going on, like, in my private life or like certain members in the community, like suffering. And like, I'm obviously not going to talk about that on Instagram or whatever. Like, it's been so much harder for me to like post. Cause like, that's my personal life, and like, I really do try to, but like when I was really in it, it was like easy for me because I was so eager to share. And like for you, it would probably be a healthy outlet, like aside from the nursing job that might not be, it's paying the bills and it's really helping you in a lot of ways, but it's not giving you like the fulfillment that you're craving.
Right. Totally.
So
Okay.
I'm going to ask you about that in a few weeks.
Okay. Can't wait.
I'm like kind of a Balchuva also, so I could be like your first customer if you want.
Oh, you froze?
Yeah, you froze also. I said I'm kind of like a Balchuva also, so I could be like your first volunteer. You could teach me how to daven when I'm in trouble. Okay, so I also wanted to ask you, like, we've spoken about this privately also, but like, how do you feel about like intuitive eating, diet culture? Like, how does that fit into your life?
So I'll just, since I would say like middle school, I was always chunky. Always had good legs. I was like always pulling off a mini skirt and rocking it. But I'm very broad. My midsection just is not the best. I was very active growing up. I was on water polo. If you don't know what water polo is, it's not Marco Polo. Google it. It's really awesome. It's intense. And it's a really great workout that I also was researching a couple of years ago to try to find a pool.
We should do that.
Start water polo for a water polo league for girls, for women.
Let's do it.
It's amazing. And not every girl could, I don't know, spin. I know you like to spin, but like, or dance or this, like maybe they feel more comfortable in the water. And like, I felt more comfortable in the water. So I really that was something that I wanted to do. You
could do that. But I will support you in that.
Okay. You'll be signed up first.
I am signed up already.
Okay, good. My body image my self-image is something that I'm very much working on. I think it's just very important. I took your course, learned so much, and tried to like focus and remind myself the tips that you gave us. I really relate to a lot of things that you post, and especially recently you spoke and kind of in a nice way called out some of the more Jewish clothing stores, and that the fact that I am also tall, 5'8", and a bit in a big body, and that I can't walk into a Jewish store and find something that covers my knees or doesn't look like a garbage bag is really difficult. I find it really unfortunate that the clothing stores can't sell towards us. Even recently, and I'm not going to say any names, but a size inclusive company is selling dresses, but they're short. They're made for short people. So now if you're fat or large and tall, it's like there's nothing for you other than big things, which I am also working with Miriam, Sammy NY.
I'm in New York, yeah.
And
plug for Miriam. She's awesome.
Yeah, she is awesome. And she's really helping me find things that flatter my body, that work for me. And unfortunately, we're giving a lot of I'm not getting clothing from stores. It's all going to other stores, and I would be the first person, even if it was more on the expensive side, to buy from a Jewish store. But unfortunately, I can't. And it's really hard. I actually just saw a picture of myself. I'm not even talking single, because I thought I was fat. Like I really had a bad body image. My husband is short, and my husband is petite, and he comes from a petite family. And I was like a Godzilla compared to him. That's how I felt. And I look at my pictures and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I was stunning. If I could only get back to then. But like I recently saw a picture. I was looking for pictures of different times I was in Israel to post when I was with this conflict going on, Hamas terrorizing our country, to show my support for Israel. And one of the years I went was after I had a stillborn. At 39 weeks, we were sent, like, go to Israel. You need like spirituality fix, physical fix, like just go. And I'm looking at a picture. We were on a hike at En Gedi, and I'm looking at this picture that was taken of me. I was 5 weeks postpartum, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like so skinny. Like, and in my head, I thought like I was this huge person. I had just come back and I was like, that's so sad that
Mm-hmm.
like, I probably at the time even looked at those pictures like, oh my gosh, I can't believe like I let someone take a picture of me. Like it's just, it's sad. I want my daughter to always grow up like, I want my sons to grow up knowing what a healthy human being is and not um, ever having issues themselves, because men also have issues, but also to like not judge or compare or have these certain assumptions of what women are. And for my daughter to grow up being so healthy, um, emotionally, physically, psychologically, just really in total. And I don't use the word, I know some people are against this, the word fat, because it's also a descriptive word, but when my kid can only comprehend that it's someone that has like a large body and it's a negative thing, I try not to use it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I've been using your tools and things you post, and also I follow other people's posts of like how to explain food to your kids. Like, oh, it's not that it's like healthy, it's crunchy, it tastes so delicious, it makes your eyes see better, like those
Mm-hmm.
type of things, because I think that's what's really important. I want my
Mm-hmm.
kids to be well grounded.
Right.
Um,
Well, I really would, if you're comfortable to share, I would love to hear your story. I'm so sorry. Like even when you said it, like I already know the story, but like it's such a heavy like thing to hear. But I'm just gonna shelf that for 1 second. What does that mean to you when you could like say that there was a time period in your life where like you didn't want to take a picture, or you didn't feel good about your body, and like now you're looking at it and you're thinking like I looked so good. Like, what is that like? What perspective does that give you now?
what it gives me, it really just reminds me to be thankful for what I have at the moment and not to feel any, it's a reminder, like, don't think negatively about myself. Yes, I weigh probably 50 pounds more than I did then, and I'm okay. Like, I'm good. I'm a good person. I'm a kind person. I'm a giving person. And it's not about my size, and it's not about how I look or how clothes fit on me that makes me that way. And I just try to remind myself, like, people didn't like me better then. Like, I
Mhm,
wasn't more liked when I was thin. I'm still
mhm,
liked.
mhm,
I would have been disliked then, just like I'm disliked now by people. Like, I have to remind myself of that, because that's what plays a big role. Like, oh, that person's judging me. This one person's not going to be my
mhm.
friend. And I know that's so like childlike, but I'm human.
Right.
And going to shul, I mean, not recently, but still walking down the block, seeing new people that I haven't seen in a while. When thoughts do come into my head, like, oh my gosh, they're probably judging me. I gained weight. I don't have my makeup on. I'm wearing a tichel and not like all
Mhm.
these things. I'm like, no, like that's not. And if they're judging me for that, then I don't want to be their friend
Right.
also.
Right.
But also, like, I have so much more to me. And if people want to know that, then they'll make the time and to meet me, talk to
That's
me.
really beautiful. That's really beautiful. And that's like such a good explanation. But I was just asking you. I didn't mean to challenge you, but I was just asking you because like they talk about that in the intuitive eating book. And like so many clients say that, like, I thought I was so blank. I hated the way I look. And like now I look at those pictures, I wish I was that size, and like I
Right.
could even relate to that. I was just posting about this. Like, I look at my wedding picture, then I'm like, wow, like my face is so much skinnier and I look so much younger and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, great. I had 10 years of my life. My life has changed. My body has changed, and like a client just asked
Totally.
me, she's like, you have that too. Like, how do you deal with it? I'm like, I have it just like everyone else has it. I'm like, I welcome the feelings. It's really painful sometimes. I remind myself what my true values are. And like, I have to fortify myself because even though I'm doing all those things, like we are surrounded with the thin ideal, and like it's just part of our life and part of our culture. So we have to fortify ourselves. It's that like it's really everyone. It's whether or not you're in diet culture. It's like you're on social media, you're comparing yourself to other people's fancy houses, the way their bodies look. It's just the way it is. So it's like
Right.
we have to constantly be fortifying ourselves.
Right. Yeah. And it's hard.
Yeah,
It's hard
it is.
work, but ultimately it will make us feel better. So it's like worth doing the hard work,
Right.
but also like not being mad at yourself when you succumb to those feelings.
Yes, right. Like you said, like it's childish, and then you said it's not childish. Like it's really not. Like, and I always say this, like my own therapist, whenever I'm like being hard on myself, she's like, "This is where you cultivate self-compassion." It's like
Right.
you right. Like we're always like, "Oh, I shouldn't feel this way," but I do feel this way. This is how I feel, and it's really
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah. So I'm also like in DBT. And one night I recently went to bed. I think, I don't even remember exactly what it was. It might have been the night of Mayron, but there's been a few different nights. And I was thinking like really negative thoughts, like about like, how could Hashem do this? And then like, I used to easily spin out like into that negatives about me.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh, I'm the worst. Like it would just like spin me out into all these different things. And I laid in bed and I just like said, I had my phone in a different room and I kind of just said all these like good things. Like I first said like I remember with the mirror thing, I'm like, this is devastating. This is a horror. And like, then I kind of didn't want to I needed to go to sleep because I do not sleep. I do not function without sleep. I'm not one of those moms. I can't wake up super early. I can't stay up late. Like I need sleep. And which let's normalize that too, because
Yes, that's so healthy and normal that you know what you need
yeah.
and you give it to yourself. Okay.
And I like said like all these like positive things about myself, like these feelings are normal. I'm allowed to be sad. I'm allowed to be this, but like also like I have like Hashem gave me my 3 beautiful living children. I am so safe in my house. I have a husband that I know supports me. And like, I kind of went to sleep with all these like positive thoughts. And like, I just kept repeating them because like I needed to like remind myself that there is good in the world and like appreciate the good that I do have around me and not just focus on all the horrors that are going on in the world.
Yeah, that's a really good tool. Like that's a tool that I teach to clients all the time. Like you could like with let's say body image day, like you could say I'm having a really bad body image day or negative body image day, and I love my job, and I love it doesn't have to be one or the other. It could
Right.
totally be. They could coexist.
Right. That's what like DBT is, like the dialectic of 2 opposite
Realities,
things.
right?
Um,
So since you were talking about like hardships and dealing with it, um, do you want to tell us a little bit about what happened to you with your loss?
sure. Um, just like a disclaimer, because I'm self-conscious about this, is that because I could speak about it so openly without showing deep emotion, um, everyone should just know I went through a lot of therapy. I'm still in therapy for it, and it's something that's actually therapeutic for me to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So I got pregnant, thank God, 2 months after I got married, and I was very, very sick. Had hyperemesis gravidarum. Um, didn't know what that was at the time. No one really knew like how severe it was. We moved into my in-laws' basement. I couldn't cook food. I couldn't smell food. I couldn't move. I was stuck in bed. I could barely text, like anything. It was just a terrible, terrible situation for a few months. And then I finally got to the point that we could move back home and I could function ish. Um, and went through the rest of my pregnancy. Everything was fine with the baby. All the appointments were fine. Checkups were fine. I was starting to go at 37 weeks, or you go for your weekly
Mm-hmm.
checkups. And at my 38-week appointment, I was saying to the doctor, like, I feel less movement, but there's still movement. Like when I take candy or something, like I still feel movement. They did the heartbeat check. Fine. There was a heartbeat. It was good. Fine. Go back to work. Nothing, like go do my normal thing for the rest of the week. Come back. 2 doctors were away. So they had just the gynecologist doing some helping with the OB side of the practice. And I'm waiting to be examined, like just do the heartbeat check. And she's having trouble finding the heartbeat and trying to find it. Then finally she found it, but it was like in a weird place. So she's like, you want to know? Go to the monitoring room. So she took me to the monitoring room. The medical assistant came in, like put me up onto the monitors, and again, having a really hard time finding the heartbeat. Now, at this moment, like this time, I have a really good. I could feel other people's like emotions. I'm pretty good judgment of character in what's going on in the situation. And I just know something's wrong. So I called Chaim, and his sister had just had a baby boy in Israel, and the whole family, his younger brother, his older sister, and his parents went to Israel. So I said, Chaim, call your mom. Obviously, I was more emotional than this. Call your mom. Something's not right. Just call your mom. Tell her to like go to the kotel and to daven. Something's not right. They're not finding it. So at this point, I'm panicking, and they rush me into a room, a private room. And I will run. I walk into this room, and there's brown, tall boots sitting in the room that obviously they kicked a patient out of the room in order for me to get into the room. And at that point, I'm already crying. A nurse is in with me, so you already know something's going on. They bring in the ultrasound tech, and I see her shaking her head. They can't tell you anything, so we had to wait for a doctor to come in. And I'm going to say her name because she's so special. And Dr. Michelle Santoyo is amazing, and now she's actually in Manhattan. So if you're there and you need a good doctor, she's amazing. She was actually the one that came in and had to tell me, and obviously I was hysterical. And I called Chaim, and I said, he was in Manhattan at the time, that's where he works, crying, like screaming, there's no baby, there's no baby, there's no heartbeat. And his boss, who I'm so thankful for, is a tzaddik, and threw him into a cab, like with cash, and said, just pay for it. Like, don't worry about it. Chaim came to meet me. In the meantime, they had a nurse stay with me. They put me into one of the doctor's rooms that were out of town. And we had a discussion of once Chaim came, what would be like the next steps. Pretty much the baby was not ready to be delivered. She was still can we pause? Because Akiva's yelling for me.
Mm-hmm.
The doctor came. Oh, you're. So Chaim came. Dr. Santoyo came into the room, told us the next steps. So the baby was still very high. I was not ready to deliver this baby naturally. Like I just wasn't ready.
Can I just ask you a question? Sorry to interrupt you, but did they, when there's a stillbirth, did they always have to do a vaginal, or I just can't imagine like delivering vaginal with that, you know?
That was one of my choices.
Mm-hmm.
It was a choice. I chose that I did not want to start with a C-section. Number one, because the physical pain afterwards, it's like a constant reminder, another constant reminder that you don't need. And for future pregnancies, just to not have that right as an added thing.
Right. So, did they explain all that to you?
Yes, very, very much so. Very detailed. Explained how the process would be to kind of help the baby come out, because when the baby is no longer alive, there's that force that the baby helps come down with isn't there. Mm-hmm. So she said they called the hospital. They knew I was going to come soon, but Dr. Santoyo said, go home, take a shower, do what you need to do, pack a bag, and come to the hospital. So we did that. I remember I called my mom in the hospital, in the office. I still had called my mom. She's in Boston. My stepfather drove her right at that, picked her up from work and brought her straight to New York. And it was a very long process. I got to the hospital Wednesday afternoon. I delivered Friday. It was February 14th. I delivered February 14th, 2014. And I delivered going into Shabbos. So it was a very long process. I really wasn't ready. There was a lot of things that had to be done. A lot of painful things. They were able to give me a lot of drugs.
I was going to say, were you allowed to take drugs during this?
Yes. I had the most amazingly special nurse who happened to also be from, she was unbelievable. Shout out to Shani.
Are you still in touch with her? Like, do you know her?
Yeah. We actually visited her that year on Purim, and we've gone multiple times. And she's been there for Yehuda and Eliana. She wasn't the nurse for me, but she came in to check on me.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah. So she was amazing. She really helped through that process. I could like speak about that if people would be interested of like that side of the story, like the details of what happened and going into it. But I ended up delivering on right before Shabbos. I had Zahava Farman, who's a brief goddess. Unfortunately, she is amazing in her field, and she was in the delivery room with us and kind of spoke to us about what we could do in this type of situation, if we wanted to hold the baby, not hold the baby, all these type of things. I did hold the baby. I held her. My mom got to hold her. Chaim got to hold her. Everyone left the room so that Chaim and I could have our privacy as well. There was nothing wrong. It was a fluke. Hashem didn't want her with us. Took us a long time to be okay with that. You came over post and brought me yummy omelet, I remember, with vegetables. A lot of people said and did really awesome things, and then people did horrendous, horrible things. Someone sat next to me on the couch and spoke about how fast her deliveries were and how her children, almost all of them, had pinota bends. And obviously when someone is saying these things and you're grieving, like pretty much sitting Shiva for a baby, that's inappropriate. I'm sure people said inappropriate things to you when you had lost your mother, and you kind of want to be like, are you kidding me right now? And
yeah, but also like there is a part of me that's like, wow, I was so stupid. Like I didn't know what it was like to have real loss, like until like I know like when you had your loss, like I tried to do my best, but like I remember like after my mom died, like people like are a little afraid of people who are grieving, you know, like they kind of like, if I remember you sending me that, like,
yeah, I was just thinking about that.
Yeah, like you feel like you're like almost like your grief is like allergic, or like, right? People don't want to get too close.
Right. So what Gila's saying is that I had sent out something like what to do for someone who's going through grief. Remember, I'm not trying to boast about myself, but I came over and I folded Nehemiah's, right? I folded his clothing. And
yes, I remember you came
because
over.
I wasn't giving you an option. Like,
right.
And I was close enough to you to do that. Like, I know not everyone
came over on Mother's Day.
I came over. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is one of those weird things. Like, if you get it, you get it, which is like, you don't want to be part of that club, but like, if you are part of
Rabbi
that club.
Fix and I spoke about that also when we went to Israel. Right after we had met with Rabbi Fix, and he unfortunately lost his father when we were in seminary. So he's like, it's the worst club, like to be in.
It is.
But I struggled a lot. And then I got pregnant 6 weeks later. Baruch Hashem, to Akiva, Shimon Akiva. He was born very healthy, also so early cute. Because my pregnancy towards the end with him also had issues. But Baruch Hashem, he is lebedik, awesome, really smart, thank God.
Yes.
And I'm still working on it. There's still, I lost so much of myself from being sick, from having the hyperemesis, and then losing the baby, and then getting pregnant again right away. There is so much in that time period of things and friends and people and relatives that I disconnected from, and things I learned about myself. Life is a process, and I'm still very much working on it. And but it still affects me.
What is it that you wish people did say to you, or like that you wish people would have done? Maybe you didn't even know then, but now, like reflecting on it.
So some people didn't even acknowledge it.
Right.
So just acknowledging it, talking about it. At first, I would never tell someone that I was a baby girl. Like for some reason, it was really like uncomfortable. And I was like, no, it's not like I lost a baby. I lost a daughter. She is a baby. Like actually my sister-in-law, when she came back from Israel, she was the first person to ask this question. She said, who did the baby look like? And I like burst into tears and I gave her a huge hug and I said, thank you so much for asking that.
Right.
Like, and it meant so much to me.
Because somebody was,
because she was curious. Like she wanted to, like, it was a baby. This was someone that was going to join our family.
Right.
And a few people came really often. My brother-in-law, so this sister-in-law's husband who was here, he was the only like family member. It was very important to me that Chaim should have someone to hug. Because at that point I was going to be Nida, so I couldn't hug him and my mom, whatever. So I really wanted someone there, and Adam really showed up and was amazing, and spent a lot of time with us in the hospital. Because like I said, it took it was it was a few days. And
so support is like
support is number one. Also, like, if you're gonna bring food, don't bring a bunch of pizza, only because like I wasn't gonna have that excuse to have a baby weight. You know what I'm saying? Like people weren't gonna see me pushing the stroller.
Right.
I mean, there's so much advice to say. I think just asking also, what can I do? Can I come over and bring you lunch? Can I just put lunch by your door? Can I, do you want a visitor? I had a friend that came and we hadn't talked in a really long time, but I was home and she was home from work and she's like, can I stop by, drop you off dinner and like schmooze? And I was like, yes, please. I wanted that social. My friend Olivia dropped off food and she asked me, she goes, can I give you a hug? And I said, yes, I needed a hug. I needed people to ask me how I'm doing. Unfortunately, a lot of that fell through the cracks. People stopped asking me how I'm doing. Just show your support. Text and not expect the text back. Just, I don't know.
Yeah.
And everyone wants something different. So it's kind of a tough situation. But
I think it's just important to like, talk about it. Cause like, I guess if you're not in it, you can't really get it and you don't want to say the wrong thing, but I guess, I don't know. I think trying, and even if somebody could correct you in a nice way, it's worth it. Then like what you said, like some people didn't even acknowledge it. Like they're so scared. They don't want to say the wrong thing, or they assume that they shouldn't say anything, or I don't know. I also used to assume that. And I'm like, why did I assume that? Like, why would anyone not want me to like acknowledge their life, but like, it is one of those things that like, you might not know until you know.
Yeah. And even we experienced, unfortunately, a friend of ours that lost a child recently. And I make sure when I speak to her, I ask with the child's name. Like I'll say,
right.
I was thinking about so-and-so.
Right.
Because this person lived, and obviously my daughter did not have a name. She was given a name by Chevra Kadisha, but just to bring it up and remembering on February 14th, it's Valentine's Day. It's a sucky day for me. But like just trying to remember that date and to be kind of aware of it.
Yeah. I have to go 1 minute, but my brother also lost a baby, and they have like a little wall in their house. Like she was 3 months. So like she did have a name and she did have a presence in their home. But like, yeah, it's like they talk about her like very openly. It's obviously different, but like when somebody else is talking about their grief, like you want to like give them the space and give them the time, and they wouldn't be talking about it if they didn't want to talk about it. So
right. Exactly.
I really appreciate you coming on. I feel like we could talk for like really seriously another hour. So will you come back?
I would love to. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, and I'm gonna, after we get off the phone, you'll start your Instagram page and you'll be like the Baal Shiva coach, and I'll send people your way.
Sounds good.
Okay, awesome. Okay, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. Have a good night.
Bye.